Hello, there's a lot of podcast things happening lately. Do you feel it? I feel it. This interview with my friend Christopher Scott hails from way back in the beginning of COVID times, and unfortunately, it is so unfortunate that I have to say that so many of the things that we talk about are actually still relevant today. It's crazy. Before we get into this one, I do have a call to action that I'd like to make. If it's possible, depending on where you're listening to this, maybe I can ask Chris to extend the deadline for this because it's taken me a little while to get the post-processing for this episode done. Chris actually asked me to ask you because he wants to hear from you. He wants industry professionals to answer this survey to give him some data points so that he can strategize on how Sue Design can position itself for 2021. In the first line of the description of wherever you're listening to this, it might show up as the summary. There's a link. It's a Google Doc. It shouldn't take you very long. It's a cool opportunity to help a guest of the show and to make your voice heard, to kind of influence the way that someone that is, in my opinion, one of the most creative forces in the industry. Regardless of if you do the survey or not, in this episode, we talk about being a man in the arena, kind of having your boots in the mud and actually doing the thing as opposed to just pontificating about it. We talk about takeaway and how that should actually end up being a component of any restaurant's repertoire. We really dive into interior design in restaurant spaces, as well as a new service piece that Sue was working on at the time. And then, as per usual, some fun rapid fire questions at the end. I'm going to get out of the way. All of the links are down low in the description if you want to dive deeper. Again, please answer the survey if you can. Otherwise, enjoy the episode. You touched on something that I had in my notes, and I was like so excited to talk to you about it, and you beat me to the punch on it, which was my notes literally say designed in quotes to go containers, possibly to take a menu mobile. And that was just like that spurred from me seeing just photo of a completely not disaster of a countertop, but it was a stacked countertop. And I think Nick Kokonis tweeted it of Alineia's to go offerings right now. Of like they're using deli containers and just like those black bottomed clear top containers that I associate with like one of my favorite Thai restaurants here in Seattle. And so can you dig into that? What opportunities have you seen? Is anybody doing anything well right now that is accessible? Like how does that even scale? That seems like such a challenge.
Yeah, a few foundational thoughts on this topic. I think it's just fascinating. But first, restaurants are obviously in a survival mode. So judging them by the same criteria as during healthy circumstances is it's just not the point of it.
Totally.
And I think the second foundation is there's a dominant paradigm out there that to go has to be transactional. I would say
as opposed to an experience.
As opposed to an experience, yeah. And it can be. You can get $150 a to-go box. If you are the right type of restaurant position and that's your brand, I can make that happen for you. It has to do with how it's designed, what the experience is, how it's delivered to you. You have as much opportunity having someone walk out of your restaurant and put it in someone's car as you do as bringing it from the kitchen to the table. The premise is the same. You are cooking food, you are delivering it to someone, and they're experiencing it. It's just that there's a dominant paradigm out there of get the paper, boxes, get the traditional things, put it in there, and just let's survive today. And again, we are in a survival model. That's fine. But there are ways to vacuum form materials. There are ways to use mycelium, which is a mushroom byproduct, to press a new type of box. There's ways to have end uses of the box that maybe you plant in your garden, or you have as an object in your home, or maybe it becomes a bowl or a serving piece. I don't know. There's all these ways to approach it that I just don't think has really, really formed yet. I don't know. That's just my instinct.
I mean, it is showing to be a alternate source of revenue for somebody that has a concept that's ready, because we frankly don't know what the rules on public space capacities are going to be. Mm-hmm. And so being able to pull that lever of I'm able to offer this as a to-go / delivery option makes it so that if the government mandate is no restaurants can seat more than 50 people, depending on your square footage, it's a very real lifeline that people are going to have to think about if they want to continue to stick with the model that they have.
And you just use the word lifeline. I
Mm,
think that's where we have to evolve. Well, I'm trying to think how to say this. Can't see them as life rafts. If you see your to-go offering as a life raft, that's a missed opportunity, in my opinion. And again, that
mm,
can be something very different for um, 11 Madison Park than it is for your favorite taco place down the street.
right.
But there is an opportunity in both, and it's an extension of your brand experience. It's not a transactional exchange. And I think because, and I get this, most of the industry is hoping it's a relatively short phenomenon. I think that's totally acceptable and fine, but it doesn't have to be. And it can be more of a fulfilling experience, I would say.
Well, it's almost like I remember. I mean, the guy who kind of pioneered it was in my lens is Charlie Trotter with the chef's menu and then the tasting of vegetables, and then Thomas Keller subsequently did something similar at French Laundry. Like,
Hmm.
why can that not be the model where it's like you have your dine in, you know what I mean, like in person experience, and then you also have this other option that's designed to go somewhere else, like and there's so many opportunities. I remember my meal at Noma was so cool because after eating there, they gave me a little card with like, here's where you should have your next meal. And it was like a bunch of great friends of Noma who also had restaurants of like, here's the coffee shop you should go to. Here's the natural wine place you should go to. Here's where you should go to dinner tomorrow night. And even thinking through that, where it's like, here's a cool menu. And then here's some places within like 20 minutes driving of here where you guys can go and enjoy this
That's
meal.
brilliant. And that gets into the curatorial aspect that you were talking about of offering the purveyor boxes.
Mm.
We are the center hub of these things, and that's one of the reasons you should engage with us as a restaurant is we do have these connections, and those connections are valuable. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, the real point and statistic that made me really start to think about this is that when everybody is talking about doomsday this and everything's changing that, which is true in so many cases, the point was people aren't eating any less. It would be different
Hmm.
if it was like, oh well, the demand for headphones has gone down. Uh, People are still having to eat their 2 to 3 meals a day,
Hmm.
and especially on times of celebration, it's still the go-to way to bring people together, which is food. And so we haven't seen a lack of demand. It's a shifting of how, I guess. And so
Hmm.
to really brainstorm how to fill those needs in the market because they're still there. And that's what I really want people to keep top of mind is that the demand has not gone anywhere, it's just shifted. So,
Yeah, and I think again, we look at in design of people through personas. So, who is
mm,
this? What is the archetype that the person thinks about themselves as? What do they value? What do they feel? What are their aspirations? What are their fears? And I do think there's such a strong archetype with chefs from the pre-COVID world. Um, they see themselves in a certain way. They've been trained that way. Um, that there's a true psychological persona of these people, and that's not an easy thing to look at differently or challenge or say, okay, these pieces of that are still valid, but I need to adapt these pieces. There's such a fierce resiliency that chefs have to come out with, and um, combining that with the brilliant generator of ideas and what's new. It's a lot of pressure, and those that achieve it, that's forever a branded tattoo on them. That anyway, just moments like this begin to challenge that. And I do think it's separating for yourself what you're flexible on and what the new opportunities are is always important. With the delivery model, there's other ways to look at it. Companies obviously like Blue Apron have taken advantage of subscription. Why can't you subscribe to an incredible restaurant? There are ways to diversify the revenue models that I think could be further explored. That's not incredibly, I'm not the first to propose that, but I would subscribe to a few restaurants if I knew that a certain product was going to show up once a week. We also explored that with a restaurant here in Savannah recently, where they were uh, their chef was producing this incredible bread that wasn't for sale, and diners kept asking, "Well, can I purchase this? What does it cost? I would love to, you know, get this every week for my family." And it led them to see the business opportunity, but it was proposed through the subscription model. What if you design a mailbox for people, and that mailbox
Wow.
is in the shape of the bread that arrives? So we, take sheet metal, we do the whole thing, we do it in your brand colors, and you have a special mailbox that becomes a symbol in the neighborhood for that product, and that's how you get it. You don't have to go to the restaurant to order it and pick it up. So things like that really interest me with delivery.
That's fascinating. I I had not even gone down that rabbit hole yet, but that's old school milkman model, right? Like you leave the branded kind of like plastic container like with a handle outside of on your porch, and it's just expected that the milkman's going to come by and drop off your delivery.
Yeah, and it's not just because it's antiquated doesn't mean it's irrelevant. I remember my grandma talking about that, the milkman coming down the street, but
Totally.
uh, there's something to say there. So
Well, and it's taking like my what was it, the publication in my hometown growing up was called the Post Crescent, and there was just like you could add a little adjacent mailbox to yours that was your Post Crescent mailbox. And it's just so cool to see an industry like the news, which is shifted to going from this physical thing to going more digital, and then
hmm
it's kind of getting not replaced, but there's inspiration to be gained from this thing that was, in person, and now it's going into your home. To take inspiration from those other industries is fascinating.
yeah, and you can go even deeper. You can again take the brand experience. You don't just make a metal mailbox in the shape of the loaf of bread. You design a metal mailbox that when it's delivered and closed, it begins to warm up the bread. And you deliver it at a
Interesting.
certain time of the day when you know the people are going to be coming home or when they want to eat that. And uh, you have it send them a text that it's there. And I don't with a coupon for 10% off your in-person dining experience. Like there's
Right.
all these ways to just I don't Sue doesn't want to go too much into the customer relationship marketing side of a business's
Hmm.
operation, but generating these ideas is really interesting for us.
Can you speak a little bit on getting inspiration from your wife's job with interior design